The Galactic Alliance Monitoring Station Epsilon 7 had maintained its silent vigil for over 3 centuries. Its quantum sensors swept the borders of restricted space, watching for any sign of movement from the quarantine system known simply as Sol. In all those years, nothing had ever breached the containment zone. Until today. Admiral Zixtal's crystalline form shimmered with agitation as she studied the holographic display. The vessel that had appeared at the edge of her sector defied everything the Alliance knew about human capabilities. It moved with a grace that shouldn't have been possible for its size, its hull drinking in light rather than reflecting it. "Confirm these readings," she ordered, her voice resonating through the crystal-lined command center. The crew of varied species worked their stations with practiced efficiency, but she could sense their unease. "Confirmed, Admiral," First Observer Ninth reported, his feathered crest rising in agitation. "The vessel's mass suggests a Warship class, but its energy signature, it's like nothing in our database. The humans shouldn't have this level of technology. The containment protocols have failed," Zixtal finished. The Alliance had spent centuries ensuring humanity remained isolated, supposedly for their own protection after the catastrophic First Contact War. They had seeded the Sol system's outer reaches with false tech, subtly guiding human development away from certain dangerous paths. Or so they thought. The human vessel's sudden appearance proved how wrong they'd been. Even now, it moved through space in ways that violated Alliance understanding of physics, its hull seeming to bend light around it rather than reflecting or absorbing it. "They're broadcasting," the communications officer announced, surprise evident in their bioluminescent patterns, in perfect Alliance standard. Zixtal felt her crystalline form vibrate with tension. "Let's hear it." The message that filled the command center was calm, measured, and utterly terrifying in its implications. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth ship Horizon. We know what you've been hiding in the dark sector. We know why you really quarantined us, and we're here to help you survive what's coming." The dark sector. Zixtal's core temperature dropped several degrees. That region of space had been declared strictly off-limits by the Alliance Council millennia ago. If the humans knew about it. "Admiral," First Observer Ninth called out, his voice tight. "We're detecting energy fluctuations from the dark sector. They're similar to the human ship's signature, but orders of magnitude larger." Zixtal studied the human vessel again, noting details she'd missed before. What had appeared to be weapon ports were something else entirely. Sensors, far more advanced than anything the Alliance possessed. The ship wasn't here for war. It was here to warn them. "Open a secure channel," she ordered, "and alert the Council. Tell them." She paused, her crystalline form pulsing with the gravity of the moment. "Tell them humanity has broken containment, but not as a threat, as our only hope." The human ship hung in space before them, its impossible hull still bending light in ways that shouldn't have been possible. As Zixtal waited for the channel to open, she realized that everything the Alliance thought they knew about humanity had been wrong. They hadn't contained a primitive species. They had caged something far more dangerous, and perhaps, given what was stirring in the dark sector, something the galaxy desperately needed. Captain Chen's next words would change the course of galactic history forever. The question was, had the Alliance's centuries of deception cost them too much time? As the energy readings from the dark sector continued to grow, Zixtal feared they were about to find out. The Alliance Council chamber was in chaos. Representatives from 1,000 worlds argued as holographic displays showed the human vessel's capabilities. Admiral Zixtal stood silently, her crystalline form refracting the chamber's light as Captain Chen's words echoed through the vast space. "While you kept us contained, we were preparing." Chen's hologram stated calmly, "Every piece of technology you seeded in our system, every false lead you planted, we saw through them all. But we played along because it gave us time." High Counselor Ven, their gaseous form swirling with agitation within their containment field, spoke. "Time for what, human?" "To build what was necessary to face the devourers," Chen replied. The chamber fell silent at the ancient name. Yes, we know about them. We found their remnants on Mars, preserved in the deep ice. We learned what they did to this galaxy before, and why they retreated into the dark sector. Zixtal watched the council members' reactions. Fear, disbelief, and most importantly, recognition. They had known. All this time, they had known. The containment of humanity was never about protecting the galaxy from us, Chen continued. It was about keeping us isolated until the Devourers awakened, hoping they would consume Earth first, giving the Alliance time to prepare. But you made a crucial mistake. The ship's hologram appeared beside Chen, its strange hull now making terrible sense. The patterns weren't random. They were exactly like the fossil fragments found in Mars ice, but inverted, engineered to repel rather than attract. You assumed we would develop along the paths you laid out, Chen explained. Energy weapons, shield technology, quantum drives, all useless against the Devourers. But humanity's greatest strength has always been our ability to innovate, to find unexpected solutions. The hologram zoomed in on the ship's hull. We didn't just study the Devourers' remains. We reversed their fundamental principles. Where they consume energy, we developed ways to redirect it. Where they absorb matter, we created surfaces that repel their touch. Every aspect of our technology has been designed for one purpose: to fight an enemy you thought unbeatable. A new alert sounded through the chamber. The dark sector's energy readings were spiking. Something massive was stirring. We don't have time for debates or recriminations, Chen said. The horizon isn't here alone. We have a fleet, hidden in the spaces between reality that your sensors can't detect. But we need the Alliance's help. Your navigation networks, your communication systems, your coordination capabilities. Combined with our weapons, we might have a chance. High Counselor Ven's gaseous form had condensed, a sign of intense concentration. You built all this in secret. An entire fleet. We built what was necessary, Chen replied. While you watched our orbital shipyards construct the vessels you expected, our real work was happening in dimensional pockets throughout the Sol system. We learned to hide from you, because you taught us we couldn't trust you. Now you have to decide. Will you trust us? The chamber's displays suddenly blazed with new signals. Throughout Alliance space, human ships were appearing, each bearing the same impossible hull design as the horizon. They had been there all along, waiting. Zixtal stepped forward. High Council, the Devourers are awakening. We can continue to cling to our lies, or we can acknowledge that our efforts to contain humanity may have inadvertently created exactly what we need to survive. A deep rumble shook the chamber, not physical, but quantum, shaking the very fabric of space. The dark sector was turning bright with terrible energy. Time's up, Chen said simply. The Devourers are awake. Will you help us fight them, or should we do this alone? The council chamber erupted in debate once more, but Zixtal could see in their movements, their expressions, their very beings, that they already knew the answer. Humanity hadn't just broken containment. They had shattered every assumption the Alliance had made about them. Now the galaxy's fate would depend on whether the Alliance could swallow its pride and accept help from the species they had tried so hard to keep contained. The first Devourer emerged from the dark sector, like a tear in reality itself. Its form defied conventional physics, a mass of shifting, crystalline darkness that absorbed all light and energy that touched it. The Alliance monitoring stations went dark one by one as it passed, their power simply ceasing to exist. Captain Chen stood on the horizon's bridge, watching the tactical display with contained fury. All ships, initiate Darkweave protocols, she ordered. Throughout the fleet, human vessels activated their specialized hulls, becoming shadows among shadows. Admiral Zixtal, now aboard the horizon as the Alliance liaison, watched in fascination as the ship's systems transformed. Your hull technology, she observed, it's not just camouflage, is it? No, Chen replied, her eyes fixed on the approaching horror. We reversed the Devourer's energy absorption principles. Instead of consuming energy, we redirect it. Makes us effectively invisible to them. They can't detect what they can't feed on. The massive Devourer entity moved with terrible purpose toward the nearest inhabited system. Alliance ships that attempted to intercept it found their weapons useless, their energy beams simply vanishing into the creature's mass. Some ships that ventured too close ceased functioning entirely, their power drained in seconds. Horizon actual to all vessels. Chen broadcast. Remember your training. Standard weapons are useless. Switch to antiphasic rounds and prepare dimensional anchors. We hit it from all sides simultaneously or not at all. The human fleet moved like shadows through space, taking up positions around the Devourer. Alliance observers watched in awe as the vessels demonstrated maneuvers that should have been impossible, sliding between dimensions to reposition themselves. You've mastered dimensional shifting, Zixtol realized. That's how you hid your fleet. That's how you're moving like this. We had to, Chen responded, her fingers dancing over the tactical controls. The Devourers exist partially outside normal spacetime. To fight them, we had to learn to do the same. All ships, prepare to fire on my mark. The Devourer seemed to sense something was wrong. Its crystalline surface rippled, extending sensory tendrils into the void. But the human ships, with their energy-redirecting hulls, remained invisible to its ancient senses. Now, Chen commanded. Simultaneously, every human ship fired. But instead of energy beams or conventional projectiles, they launched what looked like shards of crystallized darkness. Fragments of the void itself, accelerated to impossible speeds. The antiphasic rounds struck the Devourer from all directions, and for the first time in millions of years, the ancient entity knew pain. Its scream resonated through dimensions, a sound that caused nearby stars to flicker. The creature's crystalline surface cracked where the rounds hit, dark ichor leaking into space. But it wasn't enough. Dimensional anchors, deploy, Chen ordered. From each human ship, devices that looked like inverted tetrahedral crystals launched, surrounding the wounded Devourer. They activated simultaneously, forcing the entity fully into normal spacetime. The creature's true form became visible then, a horror of impossible geometries and hungry darkness. But now it could no longer slip between dimensions to heal itself. Now it was vulnerable. All ships, second salvo, Chen commanded. Aim for the fracture points. Another wave of antiphasic rounds struck the trapped entity. This time, the damage was catastrophic. The Devourer's crystalline form shattered, its pieces scattering into the void. But as it died, it sent out a pulse of energy, a signal. In the dark sector, more tears and reality began to appear. That was just a scout, Chen said grimly. A single drone. The real swarm is coming. She turned to Zixtol. Now you've seen what we can do. But we'll need the Alliance's help to coordinate a defense across multiple sectors. Time to convince your council that working with us is their only option. Zixtol's crystalline form pulsed with determination. After what I just witnessed, I think they'll be convinced. But tell me truthfully, Captain, do we have a real chance against a full swarm? Chen's expression was hard but determined. We've spent centuries preparing for this moment. Every human child grows up learning about the Devourers, training to fight them. We developed technologies your scientists thought impossible because we had to. The real question is, can the Alliance adapt quickly enough to fight alongside us? The tactical display lit up with new signals as more tiers appeared in the dark sector. The swarm was awakening, and the galaxy was about to discover exactly what humanity had become during their long isolation. The Alliance Central Command transformed into a joint operations center within hours. Holographic displays showed hundreds of human ships emerging from dimensional pockets throughout the galaxy, taking up defensive positions around major population centers. Alliance tactical officers worked alongside human strategists, merging their different approaches to warfare. The swarm is moving faster than predicted, Chen reported to the assembled command staff. The tactical display showed dozens of tiers in reality, each birthing new devours. They're adapting to our antiphasic weapons already. These aren't mindless drones. They're learning. Admiral Zixtal studied the deployment patterns. Your ships are positioned to protect our core worlds, but you're leaving the outer colonies exposed. No, Chen corrected, manipulating the holographic display. Watch the dimensional frequencies. The display shifted, revealing hundreds more human vessels hidden in the spaces between normal spacetime. We're everywhere. We had to be. A new alert sounded. A massive tear was forming in the dark sector, larger than any before. The sensors struggled to comprehend what was emerging. Mother of stars, someone whispered. The being that emerged was to the other devourers what a star was to a planet. Its crystalline surface rippled with consumed energy, trails of darkness marking where reality itself warped around it. The Harbinger, Chen said grimly. We found records of it in the Mars ruins. It leads the swarm, coordinates their attacks, and it's heading straight for the Alliance capital world. Our planetary defenses, one of the Alliance commanders began. Will be worse than useless, Chen interrupted. Every energy weapon you fire will make it stronger. But we prepared for this too. She opened a secure channel. Horizon Actual to Shadow Fleet. Execute Operation Lightbringer. Throughout Alliance space, human ships began to move in perfect coordination. But they weren't just ships anymore. Each vessel's hull began to transform, panels shifting and realigning into new configurations. What are they doing? Zixtal asked, watching the transformation in awe. Becoming what we need to be, Chen replied. The Horizon's hull was changing too, its surface developing crystalline patterns that mirrored the Devourer's own structure. We didn't just study how to fight them. We learned how to become like them, but with a crucial difference. The transformed human fleet took up positions around the Harbinger's approach vector. Their crystalline hulls now resembled the Devourer's, but instead of absorbing energy, they began to emit it, precise frequencies that interfered with the ancient entity's dimensional shifting abilities. Now, Chen commanded. The human fleet activated their transformed hulls simultaneously. Space itself seemed to shudder as conflicting dimensional frequencies collided. The Harbinger's massive form distorted, forced fully into normal spacetime. All Alliance vessels, clear the engagement zone, Chen ordered. What comes next isn't something your ships are designed to survive. The human fleet began to move in complex patterns around the trapped Harbinger, their crystalline hulls resonating at frequencies that caused reality itself to vibrate. The massive entity tried to retaliate, sending out waves of energy-draining force, but the human ships absorbed and redirected it, turning the Harbinger's own power against it. We're not just fighting them, Chen explained to the stunned Alliance commanders. We're unmaking them, forcing them to exist fully in our reality, where they can be destroyed. The Harbinger's surface began to crack, its ancient form unable to maintain coherence under the assault. But as it weakened, it sent out a psychic scream that penetrated every mind in range. Images flooded through them, memories of the last time the Devourers had awakened, of countless civilizations consumed, of endless hunger. But there was something else in those memories. Fear. Fear of a young species that had fought back with primitive weapons, that had wounded them when advanced energy weapons could not. Fear of humanity. They remember us, Chen said, her voice tight with emotion. That's why they retreated into hibernation last time. That's why the Alliance was manipulated into containing us. We were the only species that ever truly hurt them. The Harbinger's crystalline form was shattering now, pieces of it breaking off into normal space where they quickly lost cohesion. But its death throes were sending out pulses of strange energy, affecting the human ships in unexpected ways. Captain, one of her crew called out, the dimensional resonance. It's changing our hull structure at the quantum level. The transformation. It's becoming permanent. Chen watched as her ship, her fleet, continued their metamorphosis. They had known this might happen, that to fight monsters, They might have to become something other than human. But they had accepted that cost long ago. "Continue the attack," she ordered. "Whatever we become, we do it to protect everyone, human and Alliance alike." The battle raged on. Humanity's transformed fleet against the ancient horror they had prepared centuries to face. And in commanding centers across the galaxy, Alliance leaders watched in awe as the species they had tried to contain proved to be their salvation, even at the cost of their own humanity. 3 days after the Harbinger's destruction, the human fleet hung in orbit around the Alliance capital world, their transformed hulls gleaming with an otherworldly light. They were no longer simply ships. They had become something new, a hybrid of human engineering and devourer biology, but turned toward protection rather than consumption. Captain Chen stood before the Alliance Council, her own form slightly translucent now, a side effect of the transformation that had affected not just their ships but their crews as well. The council chamber was silent as she activated a holographic display showing the dark sector, now silent and empty, the remaining devourers having fled back into the spaces between dimensions. "They're retreating," Chen reported, her voice carrying harmonic undertones that hadn't been there before. "Our transformation caught them off guard. They never imagined their own nature could be turned against them, used to protect rather than destroy." High Counselor Ven's gaseous form swirled thoughtfully. "And your people? This change you've undergone is permanent," Chen confirmed. "We knew it might happen. Our scientists predicted that fully opposing the devourers would require more than just advanced technology. It would require becoming something new, something that could exist in the same dimensional spaces they do, but with our human consciousness and values intact." Admiral Zixtel stepped forward, her crystalline form resonating slightly with the new frequencies Chen's transformed body emitted. "You sacrifice your very humanity to save us all." "No," Chen corrected gently. "We evolved. Humanity's greatest strength has never been our physical form. It's been our ability to adapt, to change, to become what we need to be while keeping our essential nature intact." She gestured to her fleet. "Look at us. We took the devourer's power to consume and turned it into power to protect. That's more human than anything." The council chamber's display showed scenes from across the galaxy, human ships, now transformed into crystalline guardians, taking up positions at strategic points throughout Alliance space. Their new forms allowed them to detect and prevent dimensional incursions, creating a defense network unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. "The containment protocol is officially ended," High Counselor Ven announced. "But we face a new question. What place will your transformed species have in our galaxy?" Chen smiled, her form shimmering with internal light. "The same place we always should have had. As protectors, innovators, allies, we've merged technology and biology in ways your scientists thought impossible. Imagine what we could accomplish together now that we don't have to hide our true capabilities." A junior council member spoke up. "But you're not human anymore. We're what humanity chose to become," Chen interrupted. "Every crew member knew the risk when we launched this mission. We chose to evolve to protect not just our own species, but all sentient life. If that's not human, I don't know what is." She turned to the tactical display, showing the positions of her transformed fleet. "The devourers will return eventually. They always do. But next time, we'll be ready, not as separate species trying to contain each other, but as a unified galaxy with protectors who can match them in their own domain." Admiral Zixtal studied the transformed humans with new understanding. "You never needed containment. You needed collaboration. How much further might we all have come if we'd worked together from the start?" "The past is past," Chen said, her form pulsing with gentle light. "But the future is something we can build together. My people have become living bridges between normal space and the dimensions beyond. We can teach you things about reality itself that we've only begun to understand." The council chamber erupted in discussion, but the outcome was never really in doubt. The species they had tried to contain had become their salvation, and in doing so, had opened up possibilities none of them had imagined. As the Council formally voted to accept the transformed humans as full members of the Alliance, Chen looked out at the stars through the chamber's transparent dome. Her new senses could perceive the dimensional barriers that had once hidden the Devourers, but now served as highways for her transformed fleet. They had sacrificed their original form, but in doing so had become something greater, guardians of not just humanity or the Alliance, but of life itself. Ready to begin the real work? Admiral Zixtal asked, approaching her. Chen's crystalline form sparkled with determination. We've spent centuries preparing for war. Now we get to prepare for peace, to show the galaxy what humanity can really become when we work together. Above them, the transformed human fleet continued their patrol, their crystalline forms shimmering with internal light. No longer just ships or crews, but living symbols of how far a species would go to protect others. They had become the very thing their enemies feared, but turned that power toward protection rather than consumption. The age of containment was over. The age of transformation had begun.